The city of Pietermaritzburg, South Africa, is the provincial capital of KwaZulu-Natal, one of the Republic of South Africa's 9 provinces. About 250,000 black, white, and Indians live in the area. Predominantly speakers of English and Zulu, some very wealthy, some comfortable, but most very poor. This bustling city is home to one of Africa's most important resources, the Evangelical Seminary of Southern Africa. ESSA, as it is known, was Africa's first non-denominational, multiracial, and accredited graduate-level theological school. When it was founded in 1980, it was the first school in Africa to offer advanced training in theology to blacks. Back then, that was a risky prospect in a nation in the grip of apartheid, a harsh, even violent system that institutionalized racial discrimination and the oppression of South Africans until 1994. For all those years and right up to the present day, ESSA has continued offering the best graduate-level training available to aspiring young pastors, teachers, and aid workers. Convicted that the need for this training is greater than ever, one ESSA instructor and his wife, ESSA's librarian, have given years of their lives to the school's mission.
I've been at ESSA since 1987, and my wife and I have felt that this is the best way we can make a contribution to the growth of the church in Africa. We all know the church in Africa is growing very fast, but some people have said it's almost like a mile wide and an inch deep. And we have felt that by engaging with students from 10 to 15 countries in Africa, we're able to help them to grow, to develop, to learn how to use the scriptures, and to take this back with them to their country of origin. In the years we've been here, we have seen students develop, we've seen them come back, do further studies, and we've also heard reports of what they're doing in their countries. And for us, that is the greatest way that we could actually make a contribution to the church in Africa. It's been a strategic decision, and we've enjoyed doing it.
One beneficiary of the LaRue's strategic decision to give their careers to these precious students is Jonathan Thomas, a young South African from the Eastern Coast who senses a calling to take the gospel to Africa or even beyond.
I'd like to do some teaching. China has always been a country that has interested me, and my dream would be to do some sort of Bible teaching in China. I'd worked with a missionary from SIM doing some training in the Transkei, and I've been on a short-term mission trip to Mozambique, and I felt that the Lord was really calling me into doing mission work. I prayed about it a lot. It hasn't been a rash choice, and certainly this is where the Lord wants me to be.
Started by Dr. Phil Kapp, a courageous teacher from Spokane, Washington, ESSA began with nothing: no money, no buildings, no furnishings, no staff. Today, more than 25 years later, due to the faithful gifts of generous givers and the hard-won tuition of earnest students, ESSA consists of a city block of buildings, including a newly refurbished graduate study center and a much-needed brand-new library that will allow the expansion of the present facility, now housing more than 25,000 volumes. Over 250 ESSA grads serve in more than 20 African countries, better trained to teach and preach and model the gospel of Jesus Christ. Nothing changes a man's heart like the gospel. And when the gospel is taught and modeled and reproduced in the life of a disciple, you've gotten to the root of Africa's dramatic needs. Jared Ruttenberg has trained at ESSA and is eager to begin applying what he's learned.
So I feel adequate in that going out into whatever context I'll be in, I'll be able to address their problems and their needs and look towards theology for an answer. I don't have all the answers at the moment, and Seminary doesn't give me that, but at least I understand how to get the answers, and I have the experience and the example of people who are doing it right and who are trying their best to show that in all aspects of life there is another way.
Already using his skills in ministry to some of the country's neediest people is hardworking pastor Patrick Tsila.
I came to ESSA in 2004 to come and learn how to develop myself spiritually, how to develop myself academically, how to be able to carry the Word of God on my own in order to transfer it to my people. Normally we get books and we get information from other authors and we take that as it is and give it to our people without really knowing exactly what it is that we are giving to our people. But through coming to ESSA, I was able to learn research, I was able to learn how to dig the Word of God for myself, and I was able to develop very much academically in order to be able to impact the lives of my people.
Another hardworking ESSA grad is Sizwe Mlachwa, pastor in a large, chief-controlled rural community of more than 50,000 impoverished people outside Howick, South Africa, called Mafakatini. A recent graduate, Pastor Sizwe has a huge heart for the people he grew up with, lives among, and ministers to.
It's a community mostly where we do have experienced number of kids who are supporting families because their parents died because of AIDS. And no one here owns the title deed for the place he's using. If the chief doesn't want him, he can go at any time. You just stay here.
Sizwe is one example of the kind of minister ESSA exists to train. ESSA, he says, awakened his awareness of the physical needs of those he hopes to reach spiritually. In response, Pastor Sizwe has become a tireless help to poor families racked by poverty, disease, and death.
This is my uncle's graveyard. It's from my grandmother. So this song, he says that you must tell Jesus all of your problems and your afflictions, because he's the one who cares for us, who gives us power.
Among other things, Sizwe uses the four-wheel drive truck given him by a concerned donor to transport the sick and shop for and supply families, some of whom are left with no adults because of AIDS. The area of Mafakatini in which he was raised includes roughly 10,000 people. Sizwe estimates that he knows the names of 6,000 of those people. People who need the liberating message of the gospel of Jesus Christ, that they may be free of the superstitions which perpetuate their misery. Here, Sizwe visits a local sangoma, or witch doctor, who sells a lethal mix of traditional myths and compromised Christianity to unwitting neighbors. In this visit, the sangoma described some of his cures. Inevitably, they involved bloodletting and ritual sex, two diabolical prescriptions for a people perishing in droves because of sexually transmitted diseases. In response to the HIV/AIDS pandemic, ESSA has offered real help with its Christian AIDS program, or ECAP. Besides training competent caregivers, ESSA has graduated volunteer AIDS workers from almost 100 churches, schooling them in the truths behind the disease's transmission and results. ESSA's own students benefit from ECAP's fieldwork, training, and expertise in combating the disease with medical truths and gospel realities. For many of ESSA's students, this training doesn't come easy. Some students arrive with everything they own in 1 or 2 bags, hoping that their meager savings will be sufficient to see them through their preparation for ministry. While at ESSA, some students have seen their entire savings swallowed up by rampant inflation caused by the corrupt government of the nation from which they've come. Herself an ESSA grad, instructor Rowan Mari is acutely aware of the many needs of these earnest young students.
The greatest challenge is the financial constraints and the limitations that a lot of them come with, and that you find filtering into, you know, when you go around and go to the different flats or wherever they live. That's so evident in the way there's limited food supply in their cupboards, and some of them might come not having a good nutritious breakfast and that kind of thing. So yes, it's very evident that there's financial limitations, and that filters into their everyday livelihood.
Dr. Charles Maklangu became principal at ESSA in 2004. A graduate of a North American Bible College and Seminary, Dr. Mahlangu served as a pastor in Swaziland for more than 20 years. But passionate about the need for pastors to receive the best possible training to help Africa grow past noisy but superficial faith, Dr. Mahlangu and his wife Dolores accepted the call to head up the ministry at ESSA.
I want to see those who are going to preach the gospel say, this will turn you upside down. In the primary school, in the high school, in the tertiary institution, in the government, in the community, local government, provincial government, national government. People who will change the horror and the picture of Africa from a disaster of economy and economic corruption and political corruption and disease infested with sexually transmissible infections to people who are saying we have been changed from darkness to light and we have been given the resources grounded in the Word of God. We want to see ESSA teach that kind of gospel. We want to see ESSA being a missionary force. We want to see ESSA with lecturers who are on fire for God, who will ignite these women and men for God, who will ignite their communities for God. And we don't think that that's an elusive dream. We think it is a passionate desire that can be fulfilled. And we're excited about that prospect.
I'm really convicted about the work that ESSA is doing because while there's so many challenges facing this continent, from the HIV/AIDS epidemic to the orphan crisis to poverty and corruption and so forth, when you have trained somebody to teach and preach the gospel, you've trained them to address those problems at their roots. When you make disciples of Jesus, you make people who deal with those problems in the best way possible, in a way that all the money and all the politics and politicians in the world can't.
You know, for those who feel led, investing in ESSA is a great choice for two reasons. One, prudence. I can't think of a better place where the money can be so well spent. I had a chance to look at ESSA's financial statement, and I was blown away by what they did with so little to do so much throughout all of Southern Africa. The second thing is it's eternal. Investing in ESSA is a great way to invest in these young pastors who can take God's true word with great theology throughout all of Southern Africa.
Christians around the world who share a global heart for the Lord's work are eager to help Africa. But they immediately face the questions, how to help Africa? Where does one begin?
We need the people of God to invest in this kind of program, to invest in providing human resources, intellectual resources, and financial resources. We need the people of God to say we have scholarship, we have competencies of people who can come and teach and build on and share while we are building for the future.